So, Friendos, es ist endlich soweit. Wir haben so lange darauf gewartet, dass es endlich passiert und jetzt ist der Tag endlich gekommen. Wir haben das allererste Interview zwischen den drei Bros, den drei Kings, den drei Spideys. Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, als auch Tobey Maguire in einem Video zusammen endlich vereint. Wir haben so lange darauf gewartet, dass sie endlich zusammen zu sehen sind und über dieses ganze Ereignis sprechen können. Und jetzt haben wir ein dickes, fettes Interview zwischen den drei bekommen, was genau 30 Minuten lang geht und uns so viel geben wird, wie ich vermute. Weshalb wir auf dieses schöne Ereignis nochmals zusammen reagieren werden, wenn ich schon nicht das Ganze streamen kann. Deswegen ja, da wir uns so viel anschauen müssen, würde ich mal sagen, let's get it und starten wir einfach.
We have the three in the last 20 years of this franchise. Tobey Maguire, who of course started it all with the first
King,
three
the
Spider-Man.
G.
Hi, Tobey.
Hello.
The pioneer in
Ey,
this.
ist so schön, ihn
And then,
zu
of course,
sehen.
Andrew Garfield, who carried it on, and the next two. Hey.
Yeah.
And now Tom Holland, who's completed his first trilogy. We'll find out if there's more.
Wie süß
Tom
Tobi ist mit
Holland
seinem
right
Däumchen,
there.
ey.
Welcome
Man
and wow.
merkt halt echt, wie alt er geworden ist. Es ist so crazy.
Right off the bat, did any of you have any idea that this movie would have the impact that it's had around the globe, beyond all expectations? I think even for Spider-Man. I mean, Tom, did you, having just done the third one now?
I mean, I think I always knew that this film would be loved around the world. I didn't think it would be quite as massive as it has been. You know, one of my favorite things to do at the minute is to go online and watch fans' reactions to you guys coming in. That's one thing in particular. I don't think I could ever have imagined it being so well received by everyone. So no, I mean, I guess I had an idea that people would love this movie, but in no way, shape or form could I have thought it was going to be as big as it has been. And it's been, only the last couple of weeks if I sort of really come back to reality and come home and started to face real world problems. And it feels like we've been on some sort of really weird dream. It feels really strange.
It does in a way, but it's so exciting. I had the advantage of being at the very first press screening, so to me it was brand new, which is the way anybody should see a movie. And when Tobey and Andrew come in, that audience reaction was like nothing I've experienced in a long time, and especially now in the age of COVID, it's so great. This movie seems so needed to restore our faith in movies and the movie-going experience. Tobey and Andrew,
es ist echt krass. Also man kann Marvel so viel haten, wie man möchte, aber Spider-Man No Way Home hat Kino gerettet. Vor allem in dieser Zeit. Ihr müsst euch vorstellen, Spider-Man No Way Home hat es in dieser Zeit, zu der Corona-Zeit, wo so viele nicht ins Kino kommen können, es einfach geschafft, der, wenn ich mich nicht irre, 6 erfolgreichste Film aller Zeiten zu werden. Und jetzt stellt euch einfach mal vor, was gewesen wäre, wenn kein Covid da wäre und jeder normal ins Kino gehen könnte. Ich habe wirklich keine Zweifel daran, dass das wirklich der erfolgreichste Film aller Zeiten gewesen sein hätte können. Aber ja, it is what it is. Avengers Endgame trägt jetzt noch die Krone und wird sie wohl sehr wahrscheinlich in naher Zukunft nicht mehr verlieren. Wenn es einen Film gegeben hätte, dann wäre es dieser Film gewesen.
How did you get involved? I mean, when they came to you, I can't imagine, Tobey, they said, oh, we want you to do Spider-Man again.
Oh, das ist interessant. Wie kam Tobey dazu?
Yeah, I went and had a meeting with Amy and Kevin, Amy Pascal and Kevin Feige, and had talked about, they sort of just, teased it. I think Amy was like, we'd love to talk to you and you know what this is about. And I was like, okay, sure.
Alles, was macht, wirkt einfach wie Peter Parker. Er ist so
You're like, no, I don't, Amy, no.
Yeah, no, I know. I was like, maybe you could just give me a little bit of information. But I don't know. I gotta say, I was intrigued immediately. Like in that conversation, the intention, the kind of love and celebration of these movies and what it meant, I think, to Amy and Kevin was apparent. And to me, when artists or people who are steering the creative process have a kind of authentic, genuine intent of celebration and love. It just was so apparent in both of them that, I don't know, I just wanted to join that. And I'm a big fan of Tom and those movies and Andrew, so it was definitely intriguing. But yes, I was also going, well, what are we going to do? And that was a bit mysterious. I did appreciate what was shared, but it was really about getting together with these people and revisiting, you know, what was part of my history, and getting a chance to like come together. And there are personal things too, which are kind of resolutions or a way to revisit, and I'm not quite sure how to put it. It's just to get back into that, and I don't want to say like close the chapter, but revisit and have certain resolutions, and just join in this like loving creative spirit.
Yeah, it's amazing. What about for you, Andrew? I thought, well, with Tick, Tick, Boom and with the eyes of Tammy Faye, we've seen a lot of Andrew Garfield in fantastic performances this year alone. When I saw this movie, I wasn't expecting a third one on that, and amazing to see you back in this costume and this franchise.
Toby ist so süß, ey.
What was it like going back?
Well, I was just waiting to see if Toby was going to do it. And if Toby was going to do it, and I was like, well, I have no choice. You know, I follow Toby to the ends of the earth. I'm a lemming.
Wer ist es nicht? Wer ist es nicht?
No, but that was sincerely a big part of it. You know, when I was approached about it, and again, in a similar way to what Toby was saying, it was like, oh, the intention feels very pure here. It actually feels like a great creative idea and a great creative story. It wasn't like they were just asking us to come and say hi and then leave again.
Das hat sich aber trotzdem ein bisschen so angefühlt.
Have
Hätte ich schon gerne ein bisschen länger dran gehabt.
being in service to Tom, you know, being in service to Tom's journey and where he is as Peter Parker, and how I love the destiny feeling of the multiverse expanding in this film, and actually that without Toby's Peter and Andrew's Peter being present for Tom's Peter at this very moment, he may not become the Peter Parker that he's supposed to become. I love that there's and that maybe he would have lost his girlfriend, and that maybe he would have gone down a darker path if Toby hadn't have given him that kind of mentorship moment, that better angel kind of moment. So it was those things. I get chills thinking about it even now. So for me it was like, and it's the same kind of judgment call with any script or any film. It's like, is this a story worth telling, and do I want to work with these people? And it was a big double kind of capitalized yes, and then it exceeded my expectations, because the way that Tom and Zendaya and Jacob are as a trio is just like a kind of magical heaven kind of friendship.
CEO sex.
So welcoming of me and Toby into the gang, and then the way that Tom works with John Watts and Kevin and Amy, it's like it's very open, it's very free, and so Toby and I felt not only welcomed but actually given lots of permission to play and to kind of find our way into being of service to Tom's story in this way. And it was just a kind of joyful few weeks that we all got to spend together, which I you know, it could have been an absolute, not like you kind of think, well, getting three Spider-Men together could
ich sag's oft genug, aber
and I think
immer wenn ich auf links hin schaue, Toby ist viel zu süß.
That it went the way that it went, which was a brotherhood, which is just
krass, ey. Andrew Garfield ist so krass, wenn es darum geht, sich selbst zu artikulieren. Und man merkt einfach, wenn er über Spider-Man spricht und die Geschichte, was hinter Spider-Man steckt, dass er einfach Ahnung hat, wer oder was Spider-Man ist, was er darstellen soll und welchen Weg er eigentlich geht. Und was er hier nochmal speziell am Anfang angesprochen hat, was für eine Rolle Tobey als auch Andrew Spidey eben für Tom haben sollten, war wirklich einfach eine perfekte Lösung und ein perfekter Grund, die beiden mit in diesen Film einzubringen. Peter auf diesen richtigen Pfad zu setzen, zu zeigen, was richtig ist, was falsch, wie ein Spider-Man eigentlich sein sollte. und eben über diesen eigenen Schatten zu springen, nach den Erfahrungen, die die beiden Peter Parker schon gesammelt haben. Es war einfach wirklich so eine schöne Verbindung, die man hier hatte, weshalb es wirklich wie perfekter Fanservice wirkt. Im Ende ist es immer Fanservice, klar, aber es ist ein Fanservice, der so gut Hand in Hand geht mit einer wundervollen Geschichte, was auch dazu geführt hat, dass es mit einer der besten Geschichten, die wir überhaupt zu Spider-Man bekommen haben und die uns auch zeigt, was Spider-Man ausmacht. Es ist echt schön zu sehen, wie die Geschichte der anderen Spider-Man im Endeffekt Tom geformt haben. Denn sei es jetzt wirklich real gesehen, ohne die Filme, die wir mit Tobey und Andrew bekommen hätten, oder jetzt mit dem Auftritt von ihnen in dem Film, in dem Universum. Unser Spider-Man wäre nie der Spider-Man, den wir jetzt haben, ohne diese zwei Legenden. Und deswegen passt es so schön in diesem Film, das Ganze zusammenzubringen. Çok güzel.
I have to say, Toby, I just read this morning Sam Raimi just praising this
Sam,
reunion
absoluter
of all
King.
three of you, are the
Doctor
being
Strange,
all
The
on
Multiverse of
screen
Madness,
together
ob ihr
and what
wisst.
it was in this film. I mean, he loved it, which is high praise coming from the original director here, I think.
How sweet! I haven't seen that.
Yeah, just came out this morning. Someone asked him one of the trade papers, and he just had high praise, high praise. Tom, for you, working with them, I'm wondering, did you have any
Es muss
kind
doch
of...
krass sein, das ist auch interessant. Tom, wie er mit diesen Legenden arbeitet, weil man hat schon gehört, er war sehr nervös. Stellt euch mal vor, ihr müsst einfach der Spider-Man sein, neben diesen zwei Ikonen.
rehearsal time to get used to this idea, or did you just jump in and
Er sieht auch fresh aus. Lange Haare stehen ihm.
Motif here?
Yeah, it was daunting.
It was
It was very
daunting.
because we were a long
Very
way
daunting.
into shooting before you guys showed up. You know, we were.
And how did you guys keep this a secret so well? I know there's all that pressure on
Jetzt
you.
kommen die
but, I mean,
Andrew-Geschichten.
You had the worst of it though, Andrew. Because you were doing press for months. Yeah, like
Out there, man. I'm like out there, and everyone's like, "Why is Andrew Garfield on a press tour just denying Spider-Man?" Like these other two films. I'm like, dudes, like look at this stuff. So yeah, no, I definitely think I had the hardest time.
you had the worst
Yeah,
part of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thrust into the world just like coincided with.
Wir haben es ja mitbekommen. Andrew Garfield hatte wirklich das schlimmste Timing, was man hätte haben können. Er hat die ganze Zeit, zu der Zeit, wo die ganzen Gerüchten rumgegangen sind, rund um Spider-Man No Way Home, nochmals Promo gemacht für seinen letzten Film, Tick, Tick, Boom. Und na klar, jeder hat ihn nur über Spider-Man gefragt und er musste lügen, wie was weiß ich. Und er hat es auch echt gut gemacht. Er hat es echt gut gemacht. Ich weiß, überall hat man schon die Memes gesehen, aber for real, gibt den Mann einfach einen Oscar dafür, dass er die ganze Zeit straight lügen konnte, ohne eine Miene zu verziehen. Einfach Legende.
With having to lie for the sake of that audience reaction, I think. So, and I know, I equate it to like, you know, when you're organizing a surprise birthday party for someone that you love, and they keep saying, mate, just tell me I hate surprises. You know I hate surprises, but deep down you know they will love the surprise. I justified my ethical kind of like unethical lying behavior. I call it fibbing more than lying.
Right.
It was I kind of enjoyed it. It was quite fun, and it felt like a game of that game Werewolf or Mafia.
I'm not the werewolf!
You're the werewolf, and you have to convince everyone that you're not. So I kind of like turned it into a little bit of a game for myself. I don't know, and it did result in this kind of like, even though there were all these leaks and all this stuff happening, I think like there was enough doubt in everyone's mind going, oh,
hat
God,
recht.
what if it isn't? What if it isn't? What if they don't show up?
Genau das habe ich auch immer versucht, in den Videos zu vermitteln, auf dem Weg zu No Way Home, weil dieser Funken Zweifel, der hat mich doch am Riemen gehalten. Aber dann wirklich, wo wir noch 1-2 Wochen entfernt vom Film waren und dieser ekelhafte Leak rauskam, war es aber dann wirklich so, okay, come on, man, ja, er ist drin, was willst du sagen?
And then, so when we did, it kind of gave them that little extra little bit of icing on top of an already incredibly deep. Like I watched the movie with Toby for the first time and I was in pieces. Like this is a deep movie. This isn't just fan service, which, you know, it partially is, but like this is a movie that is about a coming of age, like an acceptance of loss, acceptance of death, taking responsibility for your gifts, and the like I was torn open by the journey that Tom went on and that he was having to, it was just like having to split with his girlfriend and his best friend and sacrifice that in order. It's classic Peter Parker, but it felt totally fresh and totally reimagined. Like his origin, like Tom's origin story was happening in his third movie rather than his first. Like there's something so profound. So the film I feel stands alone without me and Toby showing up. I hope we enhance it, but like I think John and Tom have made just something actually that is exceptionally moving, especially for young people. You know, I think it's a beautiful film.
Tatsächlich haben sie es echt geschafft. Sie haben es echt geschafft, mit die emotionalste Reise für Spider-Man zu kreieren, die man bis jetzt bekommen hat. Klar, Tobey und Andrew hatten schon mit absolut emotionale Szenen. Aber ich muss sagen, No Way Home hat für mich am meisten von allen bisher erschienenen Spider-Man-Filmen gehittet. Im Nachhinein, nachdem man wirklich realisiert hat, ey, yo, fuck, es ist wirklich passiert. Der Dude hat wirklich alles verloren, was ihm lieb und teuer war. Und ist es immer noch so surreal. Also, es ist wirklich ein Film, der im Nachhinein für Tränen sorgt. Wenn man wirklich nochmal über das Ganze sich gut in Ruhe Gedanken macht. Durch was er jetzt wirklich gegangen ist. Und das macht den Film nochmal so extra besonders und extra spicy am Ende, wie ich finde.
Yeah, Tom, it is highly emotional. You have those close-ups of you know, with Aunt May, and then beyond, and the whole coda. You know, if you haven't seen the movie, hold your ears, because that ending is really touching, and it's unlike what we've seen before in the Spider-Man universe. So to play that must have been emotional too, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it was emotional. There definitely was a sense for me as an actor that this was the last time that I could potentially don the suit. So
das Cap. Come on, ey, jetzt muss man erstmal diese ganzen Gerüchte beiseite legen. Dieser Junge sagt die ganze Zeit, ey, ja, ich spiele Spider-Man vielleicht nicht mehr. Vielleicht werde ich abhauen jetzt nach dieser Trilogie. Ich weiß nicht, ob ich zurückkomme. Alles ist Cap, das ist alles nur Marketing, um seinen Preis doch mal höher zu setzen. Wir wissen, es wird eine neue Spidey-Trilogie geben. Sie arbeiten gerade aktiv an Spider-Man 4. Tommy, du bleibst ein MCU, du bleibst Spider-Man. Es ist noch zu früh. Mach erst mal deine zweite Trilogie zu Ende und dann können wir uns Sorgen machen, dass du nicht mehr Spidey bist. Aber an alle, die sich auch Sorgen machen sollten, bleibt du noch lange Spider-Man? It's all Cap. Der Dude bleibt bei uns. Unser Spider-Man wird er noch für ein paar Jahre bleiben. Fingers crossed.
Goodbye, which is one of the biggest themes throughout this film. So, you know, thankfully I was really able to draw on my own experience and my own feelings in those moments. But this film also felt like a huge celebration. You know, this movie really is a celebration of three generations of cinema.
Auf jeden.
So at times we would be getting into these scenes that were incredibly emotional, that, you know, they're very taxing. And I was so happy to be there that I had to go at it a different way and kind of go, wow, look at my life. Look what's happened to me. I'm working with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and we're telling this story. And I would get emotional at kind of how proud I was of the situation that we were in and that what we were doing, and that I really believed in what we were doing. So yeah, it was tough, but you know, anything hard is worthwhile. And you know, I was happy to kind of really push myself and to make this film, you know, more emotional than superhero films have been in the past.
Gute Selbstreflexion.
But yeah, so a lot of it was I was drawing on my own kind of feelings as we went along.
Yeah, Toby, this feels like a culmination. In fact, I did a little interview with Amy Pascal, and she described it that way. She said this movie is a culmination of 20 years. What began with you and your three, and now going full circle here. Is that the way you look at it too when you looked at this, that this is like the end of one thing, maybe the beginning of another somehow, but the end here of what you started?
Well, I'll say I remember being on set, and it was, I believe, our last day, Andrew, and it was really amazing. And I had the awareness of this, you know, the 20 years of history, but looking at Amy and Kevin and realizing that they've been there through all the different iterations. And it was really powerful.
Kuss
Just
an Kevin.
personally, it was really powerful. It was powerful for me to be working with Andrew and Tom, and powerful in a legitimately moving, emotional way. And then to witness Amy and Kevin and consider their journeys through all the films, it was really impactful. And yeah, I was just grateful every day. It was such a rich experience. And as the guys have touched on, the kind of sharing of something and the brotherhood of it, it was just so rich, emotional. And I don't know, I'm not like sitting there conceptually thinking about that all the time, but I would have moments where that kind of stuff would hit me. You know, day to day, it was just a beautiful kind of unfolding of this story and these relationships. So I was more just like in that on the day to day, but I'd have these like reflection moments, which were quite powerful and elegantly woven ultimately, because it's actually, you're thinking about taking 20 years of history and revisiting that, and how do you balance all of these things. And each of our kind of series of films have, you know, the characters we're playing the same character, but they're also unique, and the way those films and characters evolved in those films are unique. And then to bring all of that together, including you know, all of our super villains and all of that, it was pretty wild to witness the immensity of all of this history coming together and being put into what Andrew is saying is this, you know, standalone worthwhile story. And I too just wanted to say with the coda of the movie, I was really touched emotionally, but also I just thought it had such a sweet elegance to it. Like, that was so amazing. And I agree in terms of the origin story and the kind of coming of age, or you know, Tom, your character stepping into this different kind of maturity and responsibility, and all done with this like really sweet, sad, elegant touch. It was just beautiful.
Yeah,
Sehr gut gesagt. Sehr gut gesagt. Süßer, trauriger, eleganter Touch. Das beschreibt das Ende und den Film irgendwie gut.
It's a remarkable movie, the way they did this. I got a big shout out here to John Watts, who I had seen Cop Car, and I think the first time I talked to you, Tom, it was with John, when you had done the first Spider-Man, and all I could do is talk about this little movie Cop Car that he did and think, wow, this guy's going somewhere. What was it like working with John on this film for you guys, Andrew and
Bevor Sie was zu John Watts sagen, ich muss auch erstmal Props an John Watts. Wenn ihr noch vor Jahren meine Videos geschaut habt, ich habe oft gesagt, ey, yo, ich bin echt nicht so ein Fan von John Watts. Aber mit der Zeit realisiere ich wahrscheinlich einfach, ich war nicht wirklich ein Fan von der Direction, in die Spider-Man einfach gegangen ist in den letzten Jahren, und nicht von John Watts selbst und der Geschichte oder dem Skill, den er beinhaltet, wirklich Filme zu zaubern. John Watts hat mit No Way Home mich wieder mega zuversichtlich gemacht, was seine Kapazitäten als Director angeht. Und da er jetzt auch derjenige ist, der Fantastic Four machen wird und Fantastic Four, wie ich finde, nochmals gute Parallelen zu Spidey hat, bin ich echt zuversichtlich, dass Fantastic Four gut wird und das gut machen wird. Vor allem, da Fantastic Four noch, sage ich mal, eine Gruppe ist, bei denen viele noch nicht zu voreingenommen sind und man eine größere Chance hat, etwas Neues, Frisches zu zaubern und einen eigenen Touch mit einzubringen. Spider-Man ist eine ganz komplett andere Sache, denn jeder weiß ungefähr, was Spider-Man ist, jeder hat eine ungefähre Erwartung, wie Spider-Man sein soll. Und das war eben das Problem mit den ersten 2 Spider-Man-Filmen und weshalb es da so viele Mixed Feelings gab. Aber John Watts mit Fantastic Four, ich bin zuversichtlich.
Toby had not before. Obviously, Tom had. What was that experience like?
It's so funny because what Toby just said about the kind of in those moments of awareness where you realize that we were bringing in 20 years of history and then some into a frame every day. That hugeness that I know that we only got a sense of in moments, and I remember maybe the first time I got a sense of it where I think we were on a scaffolding and like we were talking to Doctor Strange who wasn't actually there, and Tom turned to us and said there's something that doesn't feel quite right about this, it feels a bit awkward, or like we just kind of stood here and both me and Toby were like, yeah, this feels a little weird, we feel a little odd, and then in that moment John Watts comes up the scaffolding, goes, that's the movie, that's it, we got it, it's the part of the film, this is the moment, and we're all like, we're insane then. We weren't seeing what he was seeing, which he then just showed us, and it was just the 3 of us in our suits in the same frame. And just how profoundly moving that is unto itself for Spider-Man fans the world over. And I think it was at that point where I was like, oh no, people are gonna like this movie a lot. You know, like,
Sie haben ihn
this
sehr gemocht.
element of things. But
Wir haben ihn sehr gemocht.
that Toby was talking about, it also mostly just felt very small. Like we were making Cop Car, like we were just doing an independent Spider-Man film. And that's why the tone of these films that Tom and John have created together feel like a Michael J. Fox, John Hughes, indie kind of small details, awkward, beautiful humor, proper, deep, intimate love stuff with huge scope, but like at the essence of it is just pure heart. And that's what it felt like with John. It felt like I was just so overwhelmed by how unperturbed he was by what he was trying to achieve. Like it was so big objectively, but his calmness, his ability to allow actors to improvise, to play, and then for him to throw out wild ideas in the mix, to let takes run and run and run, to give us time to really find what we were doing and to go down the wrong path to then find towards the new path, the right path. I was just incredibly impressed and actually just really grateful for the experience with John. He's someone that he's a real actor's director, and that is especially hard to feel in the midst of the machinery of a film that does have this scope. And I know that Tom will be able to talk to that even better than me.
Ja. Ja, das hat er auch gut gesagt, dass man nämlich den 3 Schauspielern so viel Freiraum gegeben hat, dass John Watts mit ihnen gespielt hat und auch natürlich die 3 echt eine gute Synergie haben, vor allem eben Andrew Garfield, und so viel improvisierte Dialoge aufgekommen sind, hat die Szenen zwischen den 3 nochmals so hervorgehoben. Vor allem die kurz vor dem Kampf, in dem die beiden sich nochmals unterhalten haben und so weiter und so fort. Es wirkt halt echt mega authentisch und natürlich, dass man da einfach nicht hinwegschauen kann. Es ist besser, hätte man wohl sich nicht eine Synergie zwischen den Spider-Man vorstellen können.
Tom, that's quite a collaboration you've had for the last 3 films with him, and he's done a really interesting job with this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, John and I spoke yesterday for the first time since the film has been released. And I think it took us so long because we needed time to just kind of let the dust settle. And then we spoke yesterday, and the first kind of 10 minutes of our conversation was kind of like we're both kind of in disbelief of what's happened and what we've achieved. You know, I'm talking to him like, I remember meeting you for the first time in my trailer. I was 18 years old. And you had never directed a movie like this before, and both of us hadn't a fucking clue what we were doing. We were both like, I was petrified, he was petrified. And then on this movie, we were able to put our best foot forward, go there day one, and feel confident in our capabilities. And it's just been one of those relationships that I've had that I will cherish forever. You know, John and I have no boundaries with each other. You know, we have no fear in telling each other how it is and being honest. And I think when you make these kind of movies, it's very important to make sure that you don't lose the heart and soul why you started doing this in the first place. And I think John Watts was the perfect person to kind of keep that throughout the trilogy. But for me as an actor, he's kind of...
Toby sieht die ganze Zeit so aus, als wäre er kurz davor einzupennen.
Während
Andrew so komplett fokussiert ist.
Then he'll reel you back in and he'll always set you on the right track, and he's someone that you can really trust. He's incredibly creative, you know. He never sacrifices quality for quantity, you know, like he is the kind of person that will shut a scene down and say, we're done for the day. We're going to pick this up tomorrow because it's not reaching my expectations. And that's happened a few times on this film and in the previous two films. So I've always really appreciated his bravery to say to the studio, I'm finished for the day. I'm not shooting this scene until we come up with something better. I think that's an incredible quality and something I know I couldn't have done. I would have been like, yeah, just we'll shoot 4 hours over until we figure it out. Don't tell me what to do. So yeah, so I've always been a huge fan of John's, and he's a great friend. And I'm so glad that you guys had just as an amazing experience with him as I have.
I have to ask you, Toby, I'm sure people are wondering, so what was it like? These costumes, the costume designs, it's, you know, iconic. What was it like getting back into that suit?
Well, you know, once you get through the process of, you know, really peeling it onto your body, it was, I don't know, a lot of things. It was uncomfortable getting it on, and then it's a goof, and then it also has a sort of, you know, I guess a sort of a power in a sense, because it brings me back into that character. It really does.
Yo, bro, was ist das für Adern?
There's so much
Spider-Man
affinity for this character. It means so much to so many people that, you know, once the sort of goofiness of being in lycra or spandex, you know, once that goes away, you're like, oh wow, this is cool. This is that sort of a responsibility, but a blessing, like something that I get to do that I'm grateful for. And so that was fun. But honestly, like being with these guys, it really was just a much richer experience than I anticipated, or that I could really even express in words. I know that's not the question about the suit, but the suit is, it just, to get to be there with these guys in their suits, and whether it was like dancing around or playing around in scenes and improving, or you know, feeling that kind of sense of service to each other, and the character being in service to humanity, it really gives a certain perspective. And then the kind of trust and openness that I had with these guys, and John and Amy and everyone, it just brought this really open, I don't know, I just felt super safe, and like we were all on the same team and all in support of each other. And it just brought out this yeah, I don't know how to put it other than just like this really loving, fun, creative experience that I was just like sitting in gratitude every day, which is not always the case when you're working on something, you know, even just from the standpoint of like trying to figure out what you're doing, and it wasn't without its challenges, but it all just unfolded the way it needed to, or whatever. Just, it had a sense of this kind of destiny to it as well. So I guess the suit was the doorway to that.
Es freut mich, das Ganze zu hören, ey. Zu sehen, wie er wirklich so glücklich darüber ist, wieder in der Rolle von Spider-Man zu sein, wie viel Spaß er am Set mit den anderen Spider-Man hatte, was für eine Appreciation er für das Ganze hat. Es ist echt schön, Tobey wieder so zu sehen, wie er wirklich glücklich ist und nicht die ganzen Memes sich reinzuziehen, indem er einfach vor Rage platzt. Keine Ahnung, es fühlt sich irgendwie wirklich an, speziell bei Tobey, wie ein Comeback von alten legendären Helden, der auf einmal wieder wie so ein Phönix aus der Asche aufersteht. Vor allem, man hört auch nicht mehr viel von ihm. Er schauspielert nicht mehr in so vielen Sachen wie davor. Und Spider-Man hat ihn eben wieder ein bisschen aufgeweckt, wenn man so sagen kann. Und ich hoffe, Spider-Man 4, Ich meine, wenn Hugh Jackman es geschafft hat, dann schafft es auch Tobey. Come on. Ich will, dass er nochmal sein großes Finale hat. I don't know. Genau wie Andrew hat das verdient.
I have to mention the theatrical experience here, which has been threatened, and people say, oh, it's the beginning of the end and everybody's going to sit on their couch and watch movies at home and things. And this movie is almost single-handedly being credited for proving that that is not true. That movies exist in movie theaters the way they were designed by their filmmakers to be seen. And this is the perfect example of a movie that if you can in any way see it with an audience, the collective experience of watching this movie is, again, it's like unlike anything.
Der Interviewer macht das gut. Er sagt es, wie es ist. Er sagt es perfekt.
And it's got to be preserved. And so all three of you are here, part of the reason why movies are going to go on.
It is what it is.
You know, for this, Tom, you in particular, you might go on and do more Spider-Man?
You
I'm
might.
Try to get a scoop here.
Come on. Guck mal, wie er schon lacht.
What's going to happen?
The truth is, the truthful answer, and I've done a whole press tour where all I do is lie. Yeah. The truth is, and you're not going to like the truth, I don't know the answer to that question.
Stop the cap. Ey, wir haben es schon mal. Ey, ich kommentiere es nicht weiter, ey. Come on. Er will nur seinen Wert steigen.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Er lässt seinen Wert stetig steigen.
Was as special as an experience could ever be. Sharing the screen with these guys, you know, playing Spider-Man can be quite an alienating experience because, you know, we're the only three blokes who have done it. So to share that with you,
hey, es gibt doch einen Japanese Spider-Man.
Wonderful experience of which I have such amazing memories. I don't know. There's part of me that feels like it's the perfect time to jump off the building and swing off into the sunset and let the next lucky young
Das passiert beim sechsten Film,
to don the suit. I know I love this character and I know that I am not ready to say goodbye, but if it is time for me to say goodbye, then I will do so proudly, knowing that I have achieved everything I wanted to with this character, and sharing it with these boys will be forever one of the most special experiences of my career. So if it's time, it's time. If it's not, it's not. But at the moment, I don't know.
I don't know. Come on, er hat es doch ein bisschen mit. Er hat schon gesagt, ja, ich bleib noch drin, Bros. Ich bleib noch drin.
Well, we certainly can't wait to see what you do next. And all three of you, and again, congratulations, Andrew, on all your other films this year, which are great. And I'm happy to say I've seen all of them in a theater. And they're all different. And all of you are big champions of independent filmmaking too. So I loved what you said about this felt like an independent film in its own way, even on the scale that it was being produced. And you're all big champions of that throughout your careers. So keep it going. And thanks for joining us here and talking this rare opportunity to see three Spider-Men together.
Es ist wirklich rar.
Thanks, guys.
Geil. Es war echt schön, mal wirklich ein Interview mit den allen drei zu bekommen. Ein paar Insights, wie sie sich selbst fühlen. Ich hoffe, wir bekommen noch ein paar. Von den drei. Oder jedenfalls Tobey einzeln oder Andrew einzeln, wo sie offen darüber sprechen können. Aber es war schön, wenigstens ein Interview zu haben, was auch echt lange geht. Ey, wir haben uns jetzt einen dicken Brocken zusammen reingehauen. Was ich jetzt nochmal für euch zusammenschneiden werde. Und ja, mal schauen, wie euch diese dicke Reaction gefällt, weil so eine lange Reaction gab es auch noch nie. Ich küsse wieder jeden, der hier mitgeschaut hat. Die ganzen 30 Minuten des Interviews. Falls ihr mehr sehen wollt, die Tage kommen noch andere Videos hoch. Vielleicht werde ich mal nochmal ein separates Video speziell zu diesem Video hochladen. Einzelne Titbits, kurz gefasst eben für Leute, die eine schnellere Experience haben wollen. Aber ja, wenn das Video gefallen hat, Daumen nach oben. Vergesst auf gar keinen Fall ein Abo dazulassen, zukünftige Videos auch nicht mehr zu verpassen. Und das wär's von mir. Ich wünsche euch einen wunderschönen Tag. Passt gut auf euch auf. Lasst es euch gut gehen. Und ich würde mal sagen, love you 3000.